Welcome back to On the Same Team, a podcast about fostering collaboration and shared success. Today we have an incredible guest who perfectly embodies what it means to build a championship culture, both on the mat and in the business world. We're sitting down with Brandy Cudum, a highly respected physical therapist who has been an absolute pillar in our local sports medicine community for decades. After an impressive 22-year career as a physical therapist and rehab director, Brandy is stepping out of her comfort zone and taking a massive leap. She's officially opening the doors to a brand new clinic, Hometown Physical Therapy, right in Sergeant Bluff. Brandy specializes in outpatient orthopedics and is certified at cutting-edge treatments like dry needling, blood flow restriction, and ASTM. In this episode, we dive into transition from an injured high school athlete to a clinical leader, the massive role mindset plays in physical recovery, and the challenges and thrills of building a brand from the ground up. Whether you're an athlete looking to bounce back, or a coach trying to motivate your team, or a professional taking a leap of faith in your own career, Brandy's insights are gold. Excited for you to jump into the conversation and hear how Brandy is making a huge impact on our community. More people listen to this than Clint, so.
Exactly. Oh, I love it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you got into physical therapy, and maybe just start with, what attracted you to that trade or to that industry, kind of why you wanted to go into physical therapy, why you said this is something I want to go to school for. I know physical therapy is a lot of schooling.
Right.
And after 4 years, I could not wait to be done. So that interests me a lot. Why you would say, I'm excited to do even more of this.
Sure. So I am a physical therapist by trade. Kind of got introduced to the profession when I was in high school. I was at Woodbury Central, a small town, able to play 4 sports, tore my ACL playing basketball. So I had to go through the whole process of rehab, and recovery. And at that time, kind of the system that was set up, we had local athletic trainers that came out to the high school. So Kevin Negard was my athletic trainer, and we had a really great relationship. Got to know him, really liked that aspect of, working with athletes and the recovery process. As I was in high school, I always liked the sciences, so the anatomy, physiology, that kind of piece. And it was just a great way to kind of mold those two likes that I had with athletics and then the sciences. At that time, you're always told as you're getting prepping for college how tough physical therapy is and tough to get into school. So it was always my number one, but always wanted to prepare myself for backup plans too. So I looked at nutrition, being a nutrition major, you were in the education campus, but always just kind of kept pursuing physical therapy. Did a lot of internships, observations, and just kind of kept plugging away. My dad was also really influential in kind of keeping me on the path, making sure, hey, get all your options laid out, look at all the different pre-course work that you had to do to kind of get early acceptance, if I could, into whatever program, and make sure you're getting all those prereqs done. So at that time, I, again, kind of kept pursuing it, went to University of Nebraska-Lincoln for a couple years, then transferred to Morningside College. When Clint, after I met him, he took a job at Kingsley Pearson. So that was kind of a way to get a little bit closer to home. And Morningside College did a really nice job prepping me for postgraduate school, especially with the interview process. That was something that was going to be tough when you're in that competitive of a field to really highlight yourself. And they did a great job prepping me for that. So I was fortunate to get early acceptance into Creighton University, into their DPT program, Doctorate of Physical Therapy, and just very fortunate to be able to kind of engage in that profession and kind of do what I love at that point. When I came out and graduated, basically took my first job kind of in a rural clinic where you get a lot of opportunity to find out a variation of what you like and what you don't like, from home health to skilled nursing to outpatient, inpatient, subacute. And always just because of my athletic background, had a passion for that outpatient orthopedic background in sports medicine. I had been affiliated with a outpatient sports medicine clinic when I was injured as an athlete, and then was able to be a provider with them on staff. And that's where I did a majority of my career, in that outpatient orthopedic sports medicine setting. You had a little bit of variety there as well with some neurological conditions, but a really, probably the vast majority of my practice and clinical experience was in general musculoskeletal, outpatient orthopedic, and sports medicine. And as you kind of continued on that career, you just start to gain exposure and access and experience education in different niches and certifications and specialties. And when you've been along around the game as long as I have, you get quite a few of those
Mm-hmm.
initials on your backgrounds with ASTM and dry needling. What's the lymphedema? Uh, I'm trying to think of some other that I've been certified in. FMS, blood flow restriction, sports metrics, just a vast majority to kind of really have some different tools to use in that bag when you're treating different patients.
So I want to back up. What was the rural hospital or place that you worked before? Because yeah, I mean, ever since I've known you, it was always CNOS. So
Correct.
where did you start with?
Sports rehab was my first clinic that I started with.
Where were they out of?
They were originally the main location was Storm Lake, but I practiced in Ida Grove at the hospital, Horn Memorial. And there were three of us, Brad Rower, Jason Schoenbeck, and myself were the three PTs on staff. And it was a great first gig to the profession to just give you that exposure to everything that's out there. And we had a lot of fun. We worked hard and played hard, and Brad was a huge mentor to me and still is to this day, to really teach me about, hard work in this profession and, getting your hands on people. I still reach out to him to this day to find out, to kind of pick his brain a little bit.
So after Ida Grove, is that when you transitioned to CNOS?
Yep, that's when Clint took the position at Sergeant Bluff and I transitioned to CNOS. And what's really neat there is that the gal who hired me, Sandy Norby, is who I'm now partners with in the hometown physical therapy Sergeant Bluff clinic.
Nice.
Yeah, it's kind of a full circle moment. And she's also one of probably my biggest mentors that's just really been around the game. She's very active right now in kind of the legislature piece of it, and the compliance, really advocating for the profession. But I'm definitely just kind of, if you look 20 years ago and even 10, 15 years ago, our paths are very similar and parallel to, where she's kind of broken out, I'm kind of starting to follow in that same path. So it's just been really neat to see that, 22 years ago, she hired me, and then full circle moment where we're partners again in private practice.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
So, yeah.
So I didn't know that you guys made a transition at the same time. So
yeah,
I mean, yeah.
It was a major, and we were happy. I liked sports rehab. It was just a little bit of a drive from Kingsley where we were living. Clint loved Kingsley Pearson. He had a great program out there, but just the opportunities to kind of advance both of our careers at that time. The situation provided that opportunity, and we were nervous. You're scared. You don't know. You're happy. You're content where you're at. Clint probably would have stayed at Kingsley Pearson for 30 years, but at that time it was just the right move for us. I think I had just gotten pregnant with Ty too. We bought a house, having a baby, 2 different jobs. It was a lot of major life-changing events at one time, but thankfully it all worked out.
Yeah, I mean, that's generally the way life works, right? Like if it was like this really, comfortable, smooth progression, yeah, I mean, I don't know anybody that would say that's been their experience where it's like, oh yeah, right. I just had a nice smooth trajectory where I just kept going up. Usually it's like you're going here and 37 things go wrong, and then right after that you're like, oh my gosh, now things are working out.
Exactly.
It's like, hey, we have this opportunity, and another one knocks on your door and you're like, I'm not ready for that. But it's like, okay, I mean, are we just gonna do this too and figure it out? Yeah, I mean, changing jobs, having babies, it all happens at once.
And actually, Jake, I think it was actually Clint. It wasn't Sergeant Bluff. He got the teaching job there, but he was going to coach at Morningside. So he was moving from the high school to the collegiate level, which was tough for Clint. I mean, he didn't know if that's what he wanted, and thank gosh Tim Jagger was there, and that was a unique opportunity that presented itself. So we took the jump, and then obviously getting connections with the wrestling team at Morningside, guys like you and that crew. We had some good 3 or 4 years there until Clint transitioned at that time back to Sergeant Bluff. But yeah, it was a wild time. You would never would have predicted it, and you just kind of some blind faith, a little trust.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's always I mean, faith and trust and belief in yourself. it sounds like you had a little bit clearer of a picture than I did coming out of high school what your life was going to look like. Because I mean, I didn't know I was going to
Yeah.
Iowa, first of all,
Right.
and
Right.
I definitely didn't know I was going to stay in Iowa. Like
Right.
I grew up on a ranch in the Sandhills of Nebraska, and that's like all I knew. So I always said, like, when I moved to the city, and people are like, where? And I said, Sioux City. Like, that was a city to me. People don't understand. We didn't have a stoplight in my hometown. We had like 3 stop signs. You just
Yeah.
slowed down and looked to your left and your right before you went through an intersection where I grew up. It's like
Right.
to imagine being here, it just wasn't anything, wasn't a reality to me until like things started to happen. So, I
Right.
mean, life takes some crazy journey and
Yep.
some crazy left turns. But yeah, I
Yep.
mean, definitely, like Clint was a huge part of my experience at Morningside. Coached there for 3 years, and yeah, and that's how we got connected. And then, like you were my physical therapist when I tore my ACL my senior year,
Yep.
which I just had a conversation about that with a guy on Friday. Just the fact that I think I look back on that, and not to get on too big of a tangent, but one of the things we were discussing was, you know, my junior year, I had a lot of success, won a national title, came back my senior year, right? And I remember I was wrestling in, which, Clint was no longer there, and he was my number one practice partner. And I was thinking today, you know what? He probably got scared. He was probably like, damn, I'm gonna have to wrestle with that guy for a whole nother year, that national champ. So I never thought of that before, but I think that might be why. Yes, now that I really look back on it, he was a little nervous about that.
I'm sure.
I tore my ACL in December. We were at a tournament, and my buddy was asking me, he's like, what was the thought process? And I was like, I really didn't think anything different after it happened. The only time my mindset started to change a little bit was like when I went in, and I don't think it consciously I changed. Like I still had the same outlook, but like the messaging to me became different. And I think that, maybe adjusted me a little bit because I went to get my MRI or whatever, and they already knew I tore my ACL, right? They tested it, but they wanted to get confirmation. And I remember, someone was like, oh, we're so sorry. And at the time I was still like, I don't know what you're sorry about. Like, this really doesn't change, what I'm trying to accomplish this year, and I was like, can I still wrestle? And they're like, yeah. But XYZ. And I'm like, well, all I heard was yes. And I'm like, okay, so we're still on track. And then I started to realize like, like this is going to impact me. And, I started having some pivot shifts and whatnot. And, I started going to physical therapy because we're like, okay, you're not going to get surgery for 3 months. And I remember like the first, I don't know, I went home, I did some running, I had a pivot shift, came back, practiced for like a practice, had another pivot shift. And I was like, Jagger, like, I cannot do this. Like, if this happens every time I do something, I'm never going to freaking make it, because pivot shift was 10 times worse than tearing my ACL. That was brutal. I couldn't, like, it ballooned up. It hurt like hell. I couldn't continue. After I tore my ACL, I wrestled another match because I was like, oh, I think I just, tweaked it.
Right.
And then, yeah, that wasn't the case. But started doing physical therapy, and I think we did physical therapy for like, I would say a month, right?
Right.
Where I wasn't really practicing much. I was really just focused on strengthening, whatever. And once I did get back to practice, I never had another one. And, I finished out the season and finished pretty strong. But to bring it back, like I look back on that and, like you were the one that was pushing me to get stronger and build it back. And I think, I was getting different vibes from other people that were like, okay, like just the fact that you're finishing is good enough, like we were just talking, like that's my only, I don't have a lot of regrets, and I wouldn't say it's a regret, but I look back at that and I'm like, I wish I could have got rid of more of that and channeled more of like, hey, you're still going to win another national title, like, and not accepted that it was okay if I didn't, just because like, yeah, I mean, like I lost in overtime to the eventual national champ and ended up third. So it's like, I was close, and if I wouldn't have had any of that, like, oh, it's okay if you don't win, I think maybe I would have won, and
It's a
yeah,
yeah.
that's hard. I mean, it's hard because I get it, like where the doctors are coming from, and they're like, I don't know, but
It's a mental injury. Every injury, there's 50% physical and 50+%
mhm.
mental. It's a definite mental game. And we don't do a lot of time, spend a lot of time training in that. We try to do it during your sessions, but it's really taking that athlete mindset. It's different with athletes. They're wired a little different, especially you wrestlers.
Mhm.
But you want to keep, this is such a short time. Sports are a big deal to athletes. It is a big deal. You want to compete, you want to participate. And the window of that opportunity in the big picture of things is very limited, so to allow you the opportunity and to try to get you to that point to be able to compete, it's very, very important. That's why I'm pretty aggressive. I push pretty hard. I'll push the limits on that. We want to keep your safety always in top priority, but are we going to, push those limits a little bit to make sure that you get that opportunity to compete? Absolutely. Because it is a very small window and it's a big darn deal to athletes to have that opportunity. So that's always kind of been my mindset. I'm pretty aggressive with that. I'll push the limits a little bit, especially if you have the right, mindset. And we'll work on that, during sessions to get you kind of in that right, train of thought. Most athletes are very motivated. So that makes, the job easier. But to get that confidence, that fear factor down so we can really focus. And that's why, one thing that's going to be neat in this next opportunity I have at hometown, bringing in Ashley Hansen with BU, who's going to do a lot of wellness and life coaching, alongside that, because I have found in my practice how big the mental game is, and that athletes, they have to have that to be sound, whether it's confidence, whether it's anxiety, nerves, whatever the case may be, either just with or without injury that exists. And so she's going to be a big component. And that's why it was very important for me to have her included in this next venture, because it is that mental piece that we want to make sure now that we're just treating your body, but we're treating the mind too. So having her there is going to be huge service.
Yeah. I mean, I look back and 100% that's a huge part of it. And I was blessed with people that were like relentlessly believing in me and helped me like believe in myself. Right. And I think, like I was in that circumstance where it was like, I got 2 months left regardless. I don't care if my knee blows out, they cut my foot off, like I'm done after this. So let's just see where we can get out of me. We got 2 months left.
All that takes in that clinical decision making. Hey, what is the age of the athlete? Where are they at in their career? Does it make sense to do surgery right away, or does it make sense to push through this a little bit? And obviously yours was a little easier decision given it was 1 year left. We're going to do this no matter what. But again, you've got to get the athlete there too. And having you being so motivated and just kind of that relentless attitude makes my job a lot easier and a lot more, it makes it fun. And trying to make it as enjoyable. We know you don't want to be there. We know you're hurting. So how do we create an environment that is motivating to that? That's really important, that you feel comfortable, that you have that trust with that therapist, and that we're going to do this and we're going to give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably lucky the fact that I knew you for a few years and, like there was never like a building trust stage, right? No. It's like, okay, I'm here, let's get after it.
Let's get going.
And just the mutual understanding of like what the goal was.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I can understand how that would be different and more difficult if there wasn't a relationship there. And I would say just another reason I was lucky to, all those things kind of happened.
For a reason. Yeah. Put you down a path,
Yeah, for sure. So you were at CNOS for 22 years?
22 years. 22 years, staff physical therapist. And then, for the last probably majority of my time there, it was the rehab director. Had the opportunity to recruit and retain a really great staff that are still colleagues, today. But sometimes, life takes a different turn, and you turn with it. And never, ever would have thought that this opportunity would present itself, at this point in my career. But I can tell you how ecstatic I am that it has. And looking, you're trying to reflect on, hey, all the different things that are going on and why is this happening and what's the path? And, sometimes you don't know that, but I trust, that I feel that there's a reason that this is happening. I don't know what that answer is yet, but I really, in my heart, in my soul, I know this is where I'm supposed to be. So I'm so excited. And to be able to realign, like I said before with Sandy, to have that opportunity to continue to learn and grow, even after you've been doing this for 25 years, you're still learning and you're still growing. And that's what's pretty cool about this opportunity. And like I said, I would have never, ever, ever guessed this is where the path would turn, but we're going to do it. We're going to go down it, and there's a reason for it. And I do feel that there's a huge opportunity, not only to Sergeant Bluff, but to the surrounding communities, Salix, Sloan, Mapleton, Bronson, South Sioux, that I'm going to have the opportunity to impact. And I just can't wait to see where it's going to grow. That's the fun. And being able to align yourselves with people like Ashley Hansen and some different, different people that we have coming into this into the realm. I think you just get the opportunity to have no red tape and do exactly what you want, how you want to do it.
Hmm.
Learning from those mistakes you made, and now getting the opportunity once again to grow something pretty big.
What's the history of hometown physical therapy,
So,
and
yeah.
where did it
Uh,
start, and who was kind
yep.
of like the
Sure. So Sandy Norby, my partner, so when she left CNOS, she actually went into private practice, and the first clinic of hometown physical therapy was in her hometown of Lamar's.
okay.
And that's kind of the whole basis concept about or behind hometown physical therapy. It's really to put these physical therapy clinics in communities where our physical therapists have chosen to live and grow their families. We're your neighbors, we're your friends. There's a need in those communities for this service. So it's a private Iowa-based company that just really prides themselves in providing excellent physical therapy in these small hometowns. So the first one was in Lamar's. Since then, Sandy's expanded to another 5 locations, including Lake Mills, Milford, Milford, Spencer, East Village in Des Moines, and then now in Sergeant Bluff. So you're seeing her just kind of positioned all around, the state of Iowa, and really just it's kind of led by the charge of finding those great PTs, and where they want to be, where they're at, and then saying, hey, let's build something around that.
So when you say those, and like 4 of them make sense to me, and then I'm like Lake Mills, right? Where is Lake
Where'd
Mills
that come
again?
from? Exactly. And that
Yeah.
one just kind of presented it. It's who not what you know. She had a relationship, a connection with the physical therapist in Lake Mills. Opportunities presented themselves. And then, she decided, hey, it made sense at that time to take that clinic in Lake Mills. And it's been a great location and addition to her company and to the brand.
So this is, again, I really like to off topic a lot, but
No, you're
Lake
good.
Mills. Okay. I
Yep.
know the Cudums have a relationship with a wrestling family out in Lake Mills, a kid that was a state champ and then wrestled at Iowa State. Is that right? Like, I think Clint introduced me to somebody from there, right?
I think so.
What would his name be? I'm gonna have to look that up. But yeah,
I know.
I know Lake Mills, and they're like purple and yellow.
Yep.
And I just
I
know
can't think
that
what their
he's
mascot
introduced
is.
me to this guy, or this kid before. And I think maybe this, it's a BV grad's
Connection.
son or something like that. But yeah, I'll have to look that up. But yeah,
We'll have to ask
yeah,
Clint.
I will. I'll dig into that. I think I'm friends with this kid on LinkedIn, because I think it was, something maybe he was looking for a job and then same concept in Des Moines. It was just a physical therapist that was like, hey, like I want to join this, and I love the model, and I want to,
Yep.
do something similar.
The PT in East Village is actually Dan Sherman, who's the son of our orthopedic surgeon from Sioux City, Dr. Ray Sherman. So Dan was at Athletico previously around the Des Moines area, and then had the opportunity to leave Athletico and join with Hometown, and then establish this clinic in East Village because he was from around that area. Living at the time, decided he wanted to stay there. He could have probably come back to Sioux City, obviously had some connections with his dad,
Yeah.
but decided, hey, I want to make a name for myself down here. Not to speak for Dan, but I think I've had enough conversations with him to, know his story pretty well, but decided to, stay down there and build his own brand a little bit and have that opportunity, and is growing incredibly now after about I think he's just at the 3-year mark of the clinic, and he's added 2 or 3 PTs, a couple OTs. So, he's growing and moving in the right direction.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it sounds like, and again, I don't really have any idea, but it sounds like what Sandy's created is a model that is very scalable, right? And
Right.
somebody in that hometown says, like, I want to do this. I'll take it on. And she's like, okay, here's the business model. This is how, hometown is going to support this, and then how we're going to grow it.
Right.
She kind of has a
Yep.
skeleton, and then it just takes
Yep.
the right person to say, like, okay, I'm on board. I want to do it here.
Correct. Yep. Obviously with her experience, she kind of knows that game plan a little bit, and then getting the right people positioned. But it's very collaborative. I mean, she's definitely open to, hey, I've also got 25 years of experience of doing a few things, to bring those to the table. And what does that look like? And so very supportive. Definitely, it's not one way or the highway kind of ship. It's, what do you think? How can I support you? And there's some times where, hey, I need a little guidance or advice, and then get that support structure there. But very, very supportive, collaborative partnership where, hey, this is your baby. And what do you want? What do you want it to look like? Even down to like the stupid little details of the sign. What do you want that sign to look like when you pull in? I mean, it doesn't have to be, it can be as whatever you want. So that's what that freedom to have that voice is probably a game changer for me, given where I was for the last few years.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I ask those because like when I got into what I'm doing, I have an aunt that she's a business owner and huge influence on me. And she took over a franchise, right? And she was never a business owner before. And she bought into a franchise. And, she just always spoke to how nice it was to be given the systems to make the business work. And she's like, they're not gonna, like, there's tons of stuff, people that fail when they jump into this. But for her, she was like, the fact that they have, again, the systems in place and the processes that you can take and make your own, of course, and like you're not going to run your business the same as everybody else. But she's like, that was huge for me. And I would say the same for me, like getting into what I'm doing now, right? Like, I'm a business owner, and but the Allstate, who we're an exclusive agent for, they give you a lot of things to help you be successful, right? There's a lot of guidance there. There's a lot of advice. They tell us all the time they can't tell us what to do, and we own our business, right? Legally, they say that every time they tell us anything. Like, you're an independent, business owner. You make your own decisions, but we think it would be in your best interest to do this and go in this route. And they want me to be successful. So it's like, I trust a lot of what they say. Obviously, I do my own thing, within that, and I run my business my own way. But like for me, again, like that was huge. I got that advice from my aunt, and it gave me a lot of confidence that, the reality is, like, again, the framework's there to be successful. You just have to, take that and be a high achiever and be motivated,
Right.
like, yeah. So I always tell people too, like, I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he's a big, like MMM guy, like multi-level marketing deal, because he just talks about how that can teach you the importance of process and structure. And I guess I was always like, man, I would never do, Mary Kay or anything. But like, the reality is you learn a lot of really important business things by
Right.
doing stuff like that, and again, now, like, I've done this, I would jump off and I'd feel comfortable doing another business because I've learned so much. But like, again, they gave me the blueprint, and that's super nice. And it sounds like, like, man, like those things I think should take away some fear of some people. It's like, okay, you're not guaranteed success. Like, that's never the truth, but it's also like there's guidance and there's help and there's support, and you can see like, okay, this was successful over here, and if I do some things similar, I'll probably have success too. And yeah, I think that's super important and very helpful. And
Well, and I think the one too, the one thing too, you don't have to recreate the wheel. The
100%.
framework is there, so that's great. And then having the autonomy, to make it, to really put your name on it once again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, again, I never thought I'd be going down this path. I never in a million years.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, it's ignited something inside of me. It's ignited, maybe you get to the point, like we all do after 20 years, you get in a rut, you're a little burnout, and you're just thinking, hey, I got to hang on just a little bit longer. This is really, and I think maybe one of the reasons it happened was to really ignite that passion in me again for physical therapy and for patient care and sports medicine, and to provide that challenge that I never would have done, before. And I think challenge is okay. To have a little bit of obstacle, to have a little bit of fear with this, I think that's really, really good. I think I've already, in the few months, seen some growth in myself, and I cannot wait to see, I just want to get these doors open here pretty quick. But that's what I'm excited for. Again, to have that opportunity, I just feel so blessed at this point, and the position that it's presented.
Yeah, I agree. I think that fear's good. And like, again, in that same vein, I was talking with my buddy last Friday. I like having a little stress, and most of it's self-inflicted, right? Like, and I need that. When I got hurt, people were trying to take that stress off of me, right? But I'm like, I want it. I want that stress. I want somebody to be like, we think you should still win. This injury should not affect you. Like, you can still do this. And like, that's what I want, because like, I'm the type of person that I don't really think about how I feel right now. I like to think about how am I going to feel in 6 months when this is over, and that's how I want to operate. I want to operate on those future feelings and knowing like, okay, this is how I want to feel in 6 months. So let's do whatever we have to do right now to get to that feeling. So yeah, I do. Fear's good. Usually, yeah, it puts you in the right spot when you're a little bit nervous and a little bit scared. And your husband told me that, like,
Yeah.
you should be nervous.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. A little, just like in a wrestling match, a little nerves are okay. I want them
Hmm.
a little nervous, you know? And that's kind of like you said, that stress that does fuel you a little bit. And I think when you can then channel that and position that in a positive manner, that's when the success starts to happen. I did have a good friend ask me here about a week ago. She just said, "Hey, Brandy, are you nervous going back to patient care?" Because I've obviously, the last, few years been in more an administration role. And I never really thought about it. It's just, I see myself as a PT. That's what I do. And I just said, I kind of laughed and I said, not at all. I mean, that's where I started. That's where everything began. So to have the opportunity to go back to that, I don't see that as any type of negative. I think, holy buckets, I get this opportunity again to build it for a second time, and so I embrace that. And to be able to get back to, that patient care, that what I loved is what it was built on.
Hmm.
So to have that opportunity again, like I said, you're just so, so grateful. And I think there's a bigger picture and a bigger reason, that it's happening. And I'm just, anxious to see where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Like, one of the things, it seems like you constantly work at yourself out of the position that you love. Like it's like being a coach. Like, I loved wrestling and then I became an assistant. Like, assistant is the best coaching job of all time because you get to do all the fun stuff and none of the shitty stuff.
None of the
And then you
headache.
become a head coach and you're like, now I got to do none of the fun stuff.
Right.
And I feel like it's the same thing. Like, I'm an agency owner, right? Like, I was talking to every customer, like it was fun and like it was a challenge and but the bigger we get, the less I get to do that and the more I got to do stuff that no one else wants to do. And I'm like, I just constantly work myself out of the fun part of the job.
Exactly.
But I mean, that's
Exactly.
just the reality of leadership too. It's like, that's where you
Right.
naturally go, right? You start
It is.
taking that stuff on. But yeah, it
Yep.
is funny how that happens. It's like,
It
man,
does.
and you tell everybody like, enjoy it, like, I know you're bitching about it, but like, this is the best part. You're doing the
Exactly.
best part, like,
Right.
I want to go
Did you
back to
have
that.
worse?
It's just no
Huh?
one wants to do what I do either.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's
Right.
awesome though. Yeah. So when are your doors opening? What's the
Yep. So,
ETA plan?
yeah. So we're on target right now for Monday, May 18th. We'll be open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. And then Saturdays by appointment. I will open the clinic Saturday mornings in the fall, kind of like a Saturday morning clinic for football, volleyball kiddos who need to get in after the big game. And we'll kind of work with the athletic trainers and the ADs at the local high schools, to do some of that. But no, we're anxious. Everything's a little ahead of schedule. So knock on
Well, that's
wood.
rare.
Exactly. We'll keep, hopefully Wes keeps it going. But no, H&R Construction is doing the build out. Nate Herbst has done a great job putting up with all my changes and last minute things, but they're doing a fantastic job painting the walls this week, putting the flooring down, and we're getting ready to rock and roll in
Nice.
there. It'll be a really cool. And we're down there. It's kind of the growing part of Sergeant Bluff, kind of that southern direction. So Dr. Ben Ewell, he's putting up a new eye optometry clinic just to the south of us. So he'll be there, I think, in August, September-ish. And they're making good progress on his building as well. So you'll see kind of a shift, hopefully kind of a little bit more action out that direction to Sergeant Bluff. And who knows what else will be coming out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've seen, a few, I mean, what do you call them? Like, I guess they used to call them like a strip mall, but they're,
Right.
I don't
Yep.
know what they call them now. And there's
Yeah.
probably a better name.
Yeah.
Because there's probably no shopping really, right?
Right. Kind of just lease-based,
Yeah. Business
Yeah.
district.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty
Exactly.
awesome. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of where the housing development has seemed to transition. I mean, that's really the only place there is to grow in Sergeant Bluff, probably, right?
Exactly. And they just, that 55 and older housing development was just about near completion. It'll sit right behind the clinic when we open. So that'll be very easy access, for
Nice.
people. And then on Old Highway 75 there, there's a lot of traffic there, but it's really easy to access the clinic, good parking, no long hallways, no dark, that you have to
Mhm.
walk through or anything like that. Drive right up, park, and just pop in the clinic
Nice.
and get to work.
Who, like, staff wise, what is like I know you mentioned one other person.
So, yeah.
How's your
So
office
physical
work?
Yep. So physical therapy, which will be the main service provided there, you're looking at her. I'll do it all to start with. So from the front desk to the PT to all of that, we're going to staff it with myself at the beginning here, just to kind of see what the volumes are, what the need is. We are going to sublease space 10 hours a week to Ashley Hansen, and her company is BU, and that's kind of the wellness life coaching, and she'll be by appointment. So right now she got a full-time gig at Sergeant Bluff High School. I think she's their assistant AD and in their high school business department. So she's got a full-time gig, but on the side, she's wanting to kind of grow this business. I think it's kind of her passion as well. So she'll start kind of minimal, 10 hours a week, and then kind of see where it takes her. I know right now she's offering free consultations until she can do some one-on-one coaching come May 18th. And then, like I said, that's when our doors will open. We're looking to at some, being able to offer some other services in the near future with possibly some women's health and stuff like that. So a lot of things on the horizon that we're looking at, but really looking at those services kind of that are in demand and not offered to the community. So that's the unique thing right now. Sergeant Bluff doesn't have any physical therapy, so that they can stay within their rooftops, and have this service, I think will be hugely beneficial for that community, and just to pop right in and, get some good care and feel better and move better. And that's the goal.
Yep. Yep. I was going to ask you about dry needling because
Yes.
I have a buddy that is telling me like it's great. I should do it. Like he does everything.
Right.
He's like, I need it all. But he said he loved it. He's like, it
Yeah.
just releases so much tension. And
Yep.
he's like, if you have any muscles that are like tight, like it just
Yep.
super, beneficial for that. And, I don't know if like I caught this from Tim Jagger, but I got a lot of neck issues, right? And I don't think neck issues are contagious, but I'm like, damn,
Right.
I look and feel like Tim, I used to like wrestle him and he'd get like stingers. And I'd be like, oh, I feel bad. Now I'm in the same spot and I'm like, damn, this sucks.
Exactly.
It like chased me out of the profession a little bit too.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I mean, my buddy says dry needling's awesome. So
Yep. It's great.
what is that? And like, what's the, I guess, protocol to get some of that?
Yep. So it is, I recently just got certified in it. It's a little newer service into the physical therapy world. But it's really kind of what you said to help with that, using, small needle microfilaments to really help those trigger points, aid with muscle relaxation, decrease tension, decrease your pain, improve motion. Similar to acupuncture, just a little different conceptual theory, behind the science of it, but really getting into that trigger point release, tension, headaches, tendonitis, muscle spasm, hamstring strains, all that, that you can definitely use it for. And we're seeing the outcomes are showing how widely effective it is. And I was skeptical, when I first I thought, no way, these little needles. Well, number one, I don't want a needle in me, so you're nervous with that. But during the course, we have to needle everything. And I was having some calf pain that morning just from running and stuff. And so we needled my calf. And during the treatment, it was probably kind of like a good hurt. It doesn't feel great while you're getting the treatment. Kind of just you feel a little prick of the needle and then kind of a deep pressure when you have the needle inserted. But I tell you what, 4 hours after, I've had zero pain in my calf since. I mean, it's just widely effective. And that's kind of the results that we see, is patients the next day, 2 days later, come back and they're like, I don't know what we just did, but we need to do it again. It's that effective. And tension headaches, we see a lot of good results. I worked my son right before his national wrestling tournament, was having the same thing, some neck pain, spasm, went to some chiropractors, and I had just learned dry needling. So I said, well, let me needle you. And he was kind of, whatever, it's not going to help, kind of negative about it. And by George, the next day, he was feeling a lot better and was able to have a pretty darn good tournament after that. So that's the fun thing to do. That's why I love doing it, because you see such quick results with it. People feel better and it's fun to do. And, it is a cash-based program. So basically, you would always do a free trial for people to say, hey, is this something that's helping? Do you like it? And then if they say, hey, that was very effective, then when we'd see again, usually do it about once a week with something like that. It's usually about $25 a session for the muscles. If you insert, 1 to 2 muscles or 3 or more, it's kind of, that derives the cost, but usually about $25, cash based. For the dry needling session. So it's something we're anxious to offer at the clinic.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to have to do it.
Yes.
Tension headaches, that's like a buzzword for me because I get those a lot. That's the only time I get headaches, is like, it's all my neck pain and I get tingly fingers and, it's like, it's a real son of a bitch.
Those naggy hamstring strains and those calf strains, Achilles tendonitis. We see a lot of, even like your upper trap. It's just, throw some needles in there and you usually feel pretty darn good. And you can combine it with some stem that always adds another layer to that mix too to help with that pain relief. So
Nice.
it's been an effective tool too. And we'll do some different tools. Blood flow restriction, is one, especially for our post-op athletes or, to kind of do that, quicker training, apply a little bit lower, less intense, but highly more effective, training with the blood flow restriction that we'll be able to do some scar tissue remodeling with ASTEM that I'm certified in. So a lot of different things come into the clinic.
I'm going to just stick with the dry needling.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
I don't work out that hard enough to need anything
But you don't
else.
have to with you don't have to with blood flow. That's what's the cool thing.
Yeah, now maybe that is what I need is some blood flow restriction. I need
Exactly.
more of the yeah. I mean, my workout regimen is sadly unimpressive. First I need to work out more. Yeah, but I mean, if I can get rid of my damn headaches and like I crack my neck way too much and it pisses me off because I don't like doing it, but I'm like it gets rid of my headaches, and I'm like man, it just it makes me nervous. Again, it's just one of those things. It's like I don't like that I do it, but I just for some reason can't stop because
I'm doing it. It becomes a
constant
habit.
neck issues. But that's wrestling. It's one of the blessings. We use our neck in everything we do in the sport. So
Right, the gift that keeps on giving there.
It does. Yeah. All right, I got a few more questions and we're gonna get out of here. If you had to recommend one book to somebody, what book would you recommend?
Oh, that's a good question. That probably depends, on what we're talking about as far as what stage in life they're in, and kind of what the goal is. I've been reading some good books that have been given to me by some friends about change, and adapting to change. I never forget, I got the call in first grade when he took the Bible to school. I think
That's hilarious.
that was probably a shock to all of us at that time. But that's always a good reference. I probably should start with that. That has probably the best pieces of advice. I don't know. I don't know if I could name one right now. There's a lot of leadership books I've read out there. The one I was just going to see, a few of them have a little more implicit titles, but just kind of depending on where people are at. I've got a lot of the leadership pieces have been effective for me to use and how to kind of help relationships, not only with employees, but just relationships with anybody, friends, marriage, kids. I read a lot of parenting books, a lot about athletic, how to parent athletes, because that is a challenge. And it takes that mindset to make sure you're pushing them the correct way and that the focus is them. Sometimes, and you learn that through your mistakes that I've made. Mm-hmm. Looking back with that. So I don't know if I could probably name one right now, Jake. That's probably the number one. It kind of is situational at that point.
Yeah. Do you have one like parenting book that you would say like I like this one? It was impactful.
I read some books. A lot of the books I read come off podcasts that I've listened to, guys, and they'll be like, "Hey, check out this book." And I'll order it and read it, and then I'll take some strategies from that. Sometimes just a lot of coaching. Doug Schwab, I think delivers really good messages. That then he'll reference some things, and then you'll kind of pick through that a little bit. But that's kind of that motivation piece. That kind of gets me going a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, kind of just different aspects from there.
If you had a day of no responsibility, what would you spend it doing?
Let's see, no responsibility. Well, I would always I'm an early morning. I like to get up, get going. That's just who I am. And I always like to start my day with a run, working out. It just feels better. And I think it's just a habit that after so long you've gotten into. So definitely would start there. And then followed by some coffee at that point. But I think it would be just, engaged in, I like to read, just easy reading, Mm-hmm. Probably one of my favorite books, Ellen Hildebrand's one of my easy reads. Just kind of a beach Nantucket read with that. And then, to be outside, just that fresh air that always feels good. Probably have to do a little shopping. If Clint wouldn't hide the credit cards, that would be great. And then just kind of hanging out with, the kids, that would probably be, doing whatever, low key. We like to boat, spend time at Okoboji. Mm-hmm. Just being outside and, just kind of low key, having some good food and, hanging out.
Yep. Love that. Yeah, I think you already answered this, but one habit that you feel like has fueled your success that you try and do every day?
Yeah, running, definitely. Just from, I think, you go through the transition of, when you're in high school, and not that I was any stellar of an athlete at all, but you're just used to going to practice all the time. You played all the sports, that's what you did. So when you graduate and then all that stops, you're like, hey, I got to keep doing something, as far as, if I'm going to college. And so I started running. In high school, I was more probably a sprinter, at that point. But when I graduated then and went to college, then I started just getting into some distance running, nothing competitively, but just with kind of probably my mindset, it was something that I was very dedicated to and very structured with. It became very regimented to the point when I was at Nebraska. I think they asked me to join the ROTC because I would go run every morning and they'd be working out, and they would see this crazy, gal over there and they're like, don't you think you should just come with us?
Get some
So
benefits.
exactly. So, obviously running, and it's just, I think after you do it for so long, it does become ingrained into your system. I'm a strong believer of that. You get those endorphins firing, and
Hmm.
even my family will tell you if she hasn't had her run yet, they know it's time. So that's why it's always just a good way for me to start my day. Depending on what the schedule is, but just kind of is my time. I don't do it competitively. I don't wear headphones. It's my time. I think it's really more my time to think on process and just kind of that de-stressor to really kind of get a grasp on what my day is going to look like before I start. So, but
Nice.
I tootle around the neighborhood and wave at all the neighbors, and they will attest that I'm not tearing it up out there. They like to stop and chat, and so they're always looking out for me.
Well, I appreciate everything. So leave with Hometown Physical Therapy,
Yep,
May 18th.
18. Yep,
Okay.
May
And
18th.
Sergeant
Yep,
Bluff.
yep.
Where can they find information about it?
Sure.
Website, Facebook,
Yep.
social media. Like, where can they find you at if they start looking?
Yep, Facebook. Obviously my personal page will have a link, and then also Hometown Physical Therapy. We have our own Facebook page, website, Hometown PT, and it'll take you right into the website there, and you can search by locations, providers, anything you want, services, you can see all that there. So, yep, either one of those two. And then I think we'll have Instagram coming out pretty soon, with that as well for
Not on the
people.
TikTok vibe yet.
Oh my gosh. Well, we tried and it was a horrific fail. I'm like, the
I'm not
boys
on
were
it
like,
either.
stop doing, you cannot do those, stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
thought we were trying to be cool and we just weren't.
That's awesome. So
Yes.
Hometown Fit, all right.
Hometown PT. Got it.
Okay. Awesome. And yeah, check that out. Go visit Brandy and I'll probably see you for some dry needling.
Hey, anytime. I'd love to see you.
Okay. All right. Thanks,
Awesome.
Brandy.
Thanks so much for having me, Jake. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All righty. Bye-bye.
All right.